back to the channel. So about a month back, all my stuff from Canada showed up here in New Zealand, and included in that was my car and a bunch of bikes, and there'll be some videos coming on that. So the car here is a 64 AMC Rambler Classic 770. I'll do a quick walk around on this and show you kind of what's up, and kind of walk you through the compliance process to get it on the road here in New Zealand. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you know when I'm making a new one. So the car shipped over from Canada. This car was originally an American car. It was registered last in Texas, and then it was bought by a fella in Winnipeg, shipped up to Canada, and sat in his shed from 2009 until I got it 2 years ago. Haven't put any miles on it. Never actually registered it in Manitoba other than a no registration proof of ownership, and I had a few temporaries on it. As you can see, the interior is in like mint condition, save for those two C-pillar panels. Those red vinyl panels are a little bit hot. They've gotten hot over the years and kind of faded and stuff, but it's a two-door coupe, hardtop, automatic, console shift, front bucket seats, tilt steer, power brakes. It's a V8 car. As you can see, American MPH Speedo. It's got factory air conditioning. For the air conditioning, they added this Cool-O-Matic kind of controller, floor cooling lever here. You just pull that guy out for floor cooling, or push it down rather. And but it's factory Kleenex face tissue holder, which is pretty classy. Pillarless doors, pretty standard for 64. I'll just pop the hood here. Sorry about that. This is the factory 287 V8, which is a nice little option. It runs like a top. It's an actual AMC 287, so about a 4.78 or 4.8 liter. Has a little Holly carb under it. It's 2-into-1 exhaust. I just finished changing the exhaust. You can see it on the ground there. It had some holes in it, so I pulled that because I knew it would come up on compliance anyways. I actually put a silencer in instead of a muffler, so it sounds way better. You can see the factory AC here. It's an original equipment. It's probably a reman, but it's a Motorola alternator, which is kind of interesting, as well as rectifier there, Motorola rectifier, which is kind of fun. I've got valve cover gaskets I got to do, and I've got a set of those. And I've got some paint coming Monday to redo the paint on the engine bay here. It's getting a little tired. It is factory original, so I'm just going to touch it up, pull things off the walls, and then touch that all up. You can see it's the factory condenser in here, and everything, because it's a Texas car, is straight and rust free and all that. So anyways, what I'm doing here for the compliance testing, I've got to verify that all the brakes are good. And as you can see, the person who owned this in Texas did a full, or pretty much like an 80% resto on this thing. And I've just cleaned the dust off of these. I mean, it's pretty much new. All the hardware has still got the paint on it. There's plenty of brake shoe left. The axles, the bearings are nice and smooth. And I kind of knew that going in because it rode so nicely on the road and stops like right now. It's got power brakes, drums all around, but they stop like now. This is shifted back right now as I had I've got a transmission leak. I'm pretty sure it's the gasket. If I crawl under here. So it's all wet all in there. I've got some gasket material to make a fresh gasket, but I may end up just gooing it. I'm not sure. But it's all kind of wet all the way back. So I pulled the torque tube back because it was quite weepy around here, but it turns out that there's actually no leaking coming from inside the torque tube. It's actually just a buildup coming from the front, coming to the back. So I'm just gonna check the universal joints there, make sure they're all tight. The nice thing about this torque tube setup is that the universal joints and the bearings are all enclosed. They never get dirt, grime, dust, rust, anything in them, so they last forever. So I'll check that out, and then I can put that back together. I gotta tidy that all up and undercoat this. There's a little bit of rust, surface rust forming on these panels because this whole side of the car was, the best I can figure, was worked on, because that side there has, you can see the factory underbody undercoating, and this side what appears to be the black LMC kind of panel paint on it. So I'm gonna undercoat this side to match the other side, but I've got to clean off all this rust first. I don't want it to get any worse because now I live at the beach, so we're gonna have to make sure we protect that. And then of course the whole back end there has gotten some surface rust on it just from sitting, and so we'll clean that off, we'll paint that up and put this all back together. Even these drums, there's just barely a tiny little lip on there. Like, you look at that, there's no scoring or nothing, it's just a bit of pitting from sitting, but it's nothing that a nice run down the highway is gonna buff that off in a hurry. I've got new shocks coming. That was like trying to find hen's teeth in New Zealand here, so I just ended up ordering them on Amazon. And unfortunately, a $27 shock on Amazon, by the time you've done the conversion and the shipping to New Zealand, is $137. So we're not going to want to make a habit of that. But there's a bit of oil buildup around them, and it's tough to say whether that's, again, transmission fluid blowing back or actually shock fluid leaking out, in which case, when they do the compliance testing, it's a little bit more involved than a regular warrant of fitness or a safety certification. They actually take interior panels off to make sure that frame mountings and everything are done to the standard of the time. So I don't have to meet current safety standards. I have to meet the standards that were in place in New Zealand in 1964, which basically means it has to have front lap belts, which this car does, because in '64, that was when the American government forced the American manufacturers to install front lap belts in their vehicles. It didn't actually come into law in the States until the 70s, but the American government forced the auto manufacturers to do that, and a lot of countries around the world ended up adopting a similar thing. So this one already has the lap belts in the front. Apart from that, everything else should be as it is. I'm just going to tidy it up so that there's no questions. Like I said, I got those shocks in the back to do, and then I'm contemplating, because it's so easy to take these springs out, actually getting a new set of springs made up that are like a 1-inch lower spring, just to give the car a nice squat down on the road. And I can get, there's a place in Rotorua called Archers. They make coil springs and they're pretty affordable. So, and then they'll be bright, shiny, and new, and so we may end up doing that. I haven't decided yet. These just fell out when I dropped the rear end there, so super easy. Anyways, I will wrestle that torque tube back in place. So I went ahead and I checked the U-joints inside the torque tube there, and everything was tight as. Obviously, when they did the resto, they had it all apart, and they probably changed all that stuff anyways. I'm just finishing up cleaning the grease off the diff back there, getting it all prepped for paint, and we'll get a coat of zinc on here to keep it from rusting, and then we'll do some underbody coating and make it all shiny and new looking. And yeah, we'll tidy up all this surface rust. And as you can see here in the light, like, the bits in there are all brand new still. There isn't even any wear on those springs yet. And the self-adjuster there is all free and working good, so I'm not foreseeing any troubles there. And yeah, next video we'll get into the front and we'll see where that's at. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and tune in next time for more as we put back together the rear end on the Rambler, and we'll pull apart the front end. We'll go through the brakes up there and pull those springs out as well, and if any other bits and bobs that we need to change out, we'll do that, and we'll see you next time.